The mind is not your companion until you make it so. Left unchecked, it becomes a storm, dragging you into worries, replaying past failures, chasing irrelevant distractions, and whispering that doubt is logic. It doesn't wait for your permission to wander. It just does. And most people never notice it. That's the trap. Because when you don't control your thoughts, they control your day, your choices, your energy, your future. Most people wake up and immediately give their mind away. They pick up their phone. They check the world before they've checked themselves. They let their mind start in reaction, not intention. And once you're in that reactive state, you're not leading anymore. You're following whatever thought shows up first, whatever emotion rises, whatever the outside world pushes in. Let's stop right there. Where are you watching from right now? What time is it for you? Comment below. Let the world know you've decided. This is the moment you take your mind back, because that's where everything begins. Decision. You decide that not every thought is welcome. You decide that not every mental story deserves your attention. You decide to stop negotiating with mental clutter and start commanding your space. It's not about wishing for quiet. It's about making a standard. A thought walks in. You ask, is this helping me move forward? If not, it's out. Simple. Not easy, but simple. Most people never think about what they think about. Their minds jump from one useless idea to another. They worry about what doesn't matter. They repeat stories of fear and failure like broken records. And then they wonder why they don't feel strong, why they don't feel clear. But how can you feel powerful when your own mind keeps feeding you weakness? Control starts at the doorway. Not everything gets to come in. You must build that filter. And that filter begins with awareness. Pay attention. When do you feel scattered? What thoughts always drain you? That's your clutter. Identify it. Expose it. Cut it off. Then, structure. You don't let your body wander all day. You move it with purpose. Your mind needs the same. Give it a daily list. Priorities. Anchors. When it drifts, and it will, you bring it back. Over and over. That's the work. And the fuel? Input. What you feed your mind matters. Most scroll themselves into mental malnutrition. Too much noise. Too much junk. Your mind reflects what you let in. You want strong output? Choose strong input. Books that build you. Voices that lift you. Content that reminds you of who you're becoming. Now stack discipline. Not forced effort, but steady return, like brushing teeth. You build rituals that sharpen your mind. 5 minutes of stillness. 1 moment to repeat your focus. A breath to remember what matters. That's mental weightlifting. That's how clarity grows. And don't forget the override. Every thought that doesn't serve gets overwritten, not ignored, replaced. You don't fight it. You shift it. Not empty positivity, practical thought, grounded focus. The kind of thinking that reminds you, I'm building something. I'm moving. I'm not here to entertain fear. There will always be noise. Always thoughts trying to take the wheel. You don't beat them by arguing. You beat them by acting. Return to your work. Return to your mission. Return to your chosen thought. That's the win. Not perfect thoughts. Chosen ones. There's no success without mental discipline. No clarity without decision. No power without control. You either lead your mind or your mind leads you. And the direction it goes, that's the direction your life follows. You want a better day? It starts with one decision. Today, I command my mind. Not hope, not wait. Command. And tomorrow, same choice. Again and again. Until it's who you are. The next step is sharpening this control. Not just resisting distraction, but choosing to aim your attention like a laser. You've learned to stop what weakens you. Now it's time to build what strengthens you. Focus is not something you stumble upon. It is not granted by circumstance, and it doesn't arrive because the room is quiet. Focus is earned, trained, sharpened. Most people are not unfocused because they lack willpower. They're unfocused because they never trained their mind to stay. And in a world that pulls your attention every second, untrained minds don't stand a chance. The human brain, as brilliant as it is, behaves like a puppy when left untrained. It follows noise. It chases novelty. It gets bored and wanders off. One message, one ping, one flash of emotion, and the mind veers off path. It doesn't care about your goal. It cares about the next thing that stimulates it. Unless you take charge, every great builder of anything, an empire, a body, a relationship, a movement, had one thing in common: sustained attention. The ability to stay with what matters long enough for it to grow. That's rare, because most people leave too soon. Their energy leaks into 10 directions, and progress never compounds when attention is scattered. You think you're doing 10 things, but the truth is, you're doing none of them well. The mind wasn't made for multitasking. It's made for precision, for presence. And if you don't give it a target, it'll aim for anything. Usually, whatever is easiest. You want to change your life? Pick one focus. Just one. Not 10 goals. Not 5 projects. One thing that matters now. Anchor your mind there. Remind it daily, because every time you return to your focus, you train your mind. You send a message. This is what we care about. This is what we build. And over time, your brain adapts. It begins to protect that focus with you. It becomes your ally. That's not motivation. That's neuroplasticity. You're rewiring the brain to prefer depth over distraction. Now here's the truth. No one tells you. Focus feels unnatural at first, because we've trained ourselves to switch tasks every few minutes. Our phones, our tabs, our feeds, they've conditioned us to crave interruption. So when you sit down and try to do one thing, your brain resists. It wants out. It searches for relief. But that moment, that very moment of discomfort, is your training ground. It's where most people quit, and it's where you get stronger. Sit with it. Stay. Remind yourself, clarity comes after the chaos quiets. Most never get there because they don't wait long enough. You must learn to hold your mind in place. That's what separates those who drift from those who build. Stillness is power. Stillness is depth. And stillness is a skill. To develop that, you need a system. Begin every day by reviewing your one focus. Write it down. Read it aloud. Anchor it in your mind. Throughout the day, when your mind wanders, and it will, bring it back. Not with judgment, with calm. Return, return, return. That repetition is how attention becomes discipline. Guard your focus like it's sacred, because it is. It's the gateway between ideas and action. Without it, your plans mean nothing. And yes, the world will test it. People will interrupt. Problems will rise. Notifications will try to steal your energy. But you must protect your boundaries. That's what warriors of thought do. They don't wait for the world to be silent. They train in the noise. Know your triggers. Know what pulls you away. Your phone? Leave it outside the room. Your emotions? Pause and breathe. Your comparisons? Close the window. Don't let external chaos decide your internal clarity. Build routines that strengthen your mental filter. Focused time blocks. Intentional breaks. One task at a time. Clarity in the morning. Reflection in the evening. These habits keep your mind aligned, and when doubt whispers, "This doesn't matter," you tell it, "This is the most important thing I can do right now." That conviction is the seed of progress. Because whatever gets your sustained attention grows. This isn't about being robotic. It's about being responsible. You owe your purpose full attention. You owe your future your best mental energy. So when your mind wants to scroll, return. When it wants to drift, return. When it jumps, pause and return. That's the work. Not dramatic, not loud, but powerful beyond measure. Because the person who controls their attention controls their reality. And when you've trained focus into discipline, the next frontier is choosing what you actually allow into your mind. It's not enough to hold attention. You must aim it with precision. Thought is your most valuable currency, and it's time you start spending it like it matters. Thought is not a passive stream. It's a steering wheel. And most people are letting theirs turn wherever it wants. One moment, they're thinking about their future. The next, they're stuck in regret. One thought builds, the next one breaks. No plan, no direction, just mental drifting. And drifting, in any form, never leads to progress. It only leads to disorientation. If you want clarity, if you want power, you must choose what you think. Deliberately, repeatedly, relentlessly. This is the foundation of all mental mastery. Not controlling every thought that appears, but controlling which ones you follow. Because not all thoughts are equal. Some are designed to protect. Some are echoes of the past. Some are lies in disguise. And some are weapons dressed as logic. If you don't take time to choose your thoughts, the world will choose them for you. And the world is loud. You must become the thinker behind the thought. Step back, observe, ask, is this mine? Is this thought something I chose or something I absorbed? That one question can change everything. People who win in life aren't always the smartest. They're the most mentally intentional. They don't allow their mind to recycle doubt. They don't marinate in what-ifs. They decide, this is what I believe, this is what I think, and this is where I'm going. It starts with responsibility, not to others, to yourself. Because nobody is coming to clean your mental space for you. No one is going to sort your thoughts, delete your doubts, or organize your beliefs. That's your job. That's your power. Look closely. What do you constantly repeat in your mind? Because repetition builds reality. Think fear, live fearful. Think lack, live limited. Think delay, live stagnant. But think strength, and you move. Think clarity, and your steps align. Think courage, and action becomes natural. But this isn't about affirmations alone. It's about architecture, mental structure, building your inner world to reflect the person you're choosing to become. That's not fiction. That's decision. So begin here. Choose 3 truths, not theories, not borrowed beliefs, but personal, grounded truths. Something like, I do not chase every thought, or my direction matters more than my emotion, or I return to strength when I drift. Repeat them, write them, anchor them. They're your North Star when the storm hits. And yes, the storm will hit. Noise will rise. chaos will swirl. And in those moments, your default thoughts will lead. So you must train that default now. Don't wait for peace to think clearly. Train clarity so that it survives the war. The mistake most make? They confuse thinking with progress. But thinking without intention is a loop. You walk in circles. You analyze, hesitate, regret, repeat, and call it productivity. But unless your thoughts are aligned with movement, they're just motion sickness for the mind. Purposeful thought sounds like this. What is my next step? Not, what if this fails? Or, why did they say that? It's forward. It's active. It's focused on movement. You must filter every thought through one question. Does this help me build? If yes, keep it. If not, reject it. Not debate. Not dwell. Dismiss. Replace. Because your mind needs a mission. It craves a leader. If you don't step into that role, your mind will invent one. Usually fear. Usually doubt. Usually the loudest voice from your past. You must speak louder. Don't wait for confidence to think with power. You earn confidence by directing your thoughts before you feel ready. By catching the old narrative mid-sentence and saying, no, that's not me anymore. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. Catch, replace, repeat. Over and over until your brain learns. This is how we think now. And part of that rewiring includes asking better questions. The mind thrives on questions. Most people feed it garbage. Why am I like this? Why can't I focus? Better questions get better answers. What matters most right now? What thought would move me? What belief am I feeding in this moment? Let your questions shape your clarity. Let your decisions shape your discipline. And create a space for thinking. Not endless overthinking, but daily clarity time. Sit down. Just 10 minutes. No input. No noise. Just awareness. Ask, reflect, correct. That's leadership. That's power. And check your environment. Because your mental space is not immune to outside energy. If your surroundings feed fear, your mind drinks it. If your circle feeds gossip, your thoughts rot. Be intentional. Choose what and who you let in. Curate your reality the same way you curate your goals, with precision. You don't need more opinions. You need more ownership. Because thought is not just the beginning of action. It's the design of identity. You will become whatever thought you rehearse most. So choose wisely. Feed it daily. Protect it fiercely. This is how you stop drifting. By planting mental stakes in the ground and saying, this is what I think. This is who I am. And this is where I'm going. The mind respects clarity. The world follows those who live it. Now that you've decided what to think, it's time to decide how to begin each day. Because your first thoughts in the morning will shape every move you make. The reset begins before the world even opens its mouth. Morning is not neutral. Morning is the battlefield. The moment your eyes open, your mind is waiting for direction. If you don't give it one, it will grab whatever it finds first. The stress from yesterday, the fear of what might go wrong, the noise from notifications. And from that one unconscious choice, the entire day shifts out of alignment. You don't get to ease into leadership of the mind. You must take the wheel before the engine even starts. Because how you begin is how you build. And if you begin in chaos, don't expect clarity to meet you later. Success doesn't start with luck. It starts with how you think at 6 a.m. before the world gets a vote. Most people wake up reactive. They scroll. They absorb. They respond. They let the headlines shape their headspace, and that passivity becomes their posture. All day. Always behind, always responding, never choosing. That cycle must break. And it breaks with one decision: the morning reset. You wake, and before you reach for the phone, you reach for your direction. You decide, this is who I am today. This is what matters. This is what I'm ignoring. That is not motivation. That is mental calibration. Your mind wakes up where it went to sleep. So if you drifted into doubt last night, your morning starts on the back foot unless you interrupt it, unless you reset with intention. This isn't about affirmations whispered in the mirror. This is about reclaiming your command. Sit up. Breathe. Speak truth to yourself before the lies get loud. I choose clarity. I don't follow noise. Today, I focus. You don't need 30 minutes. You need presence. Even 2 minutes of full awareness beats a day of mental wandering. The morning reset is not a routine. It's a ritual. A line in the sand. A contract with your own direction. You don't need the world to validate it. You need to feel the shift. Because if you don't own your first thoughts, your phone will. Your schedule will. Other people's needs will. The world is greedy with attention, and it always starts early. That's why you must protect your early hours. Not with perfection, with priority. Your mind deserves peace before pressure. Start by asking, what is my energy building toward today? Not what's urgent, what's important. Write it down. One sentence. Speak it out loud. Anchor it, then clear the rest. You don't need to think about everything at once. You don't need to solve the day in your head before you drink water. You just need to aim. Direction matters more than speed. You are not the person you were yesterday. Don't let your old thoughts run today. Every day is new real estate, and the reset is how you decide who owns it. This reset becomes the foundation of mental autonomy. You stop waiting for things to feel right. You stop depending on emotions to guide you. You act from identity, not impulse. And this identity isn't built through scrolling or reacting. It's built through the stillness before noise, through the thought you choose before the world chooses for you. Most people never build this muscle. They start fast, they start cluttered, they chase before they choose. And so, their days belong to whatever pulls hardest, but not you. You've seen what that leads to. Scattered action, shallow progress, and tiredness that doesn't come from work, but from misalignment. So you build your edge where others lose theirs, in the morning, in silence, in choice. This is where leaders are made. This is where discipline is born. Not under pressure, but before it. When the day gets heavy, and it will, you don't collapse because you've already decided how to stand. That decision happened hours earlier, in the reset. The reset is armor. It's the shield you carry into meetings, into stress, into setbacks. Not because you're pretending life is easy, but because you've already chosen how to think when it's not. And the more you repeat this, the faster your brain learns. It starts looking for focus instead of distraction. It starts following your plan instead of your fears. Eventually, it becomes automatic. But until then, you train, you return, you reset. Every day, no matter how good or bad yesterday was. This is the consistency most people lack. They only reset when life feels broken. But if you only fix your thinking when you feel lost, you'll always be a step behind. Reset when things are good. Reset when things are calm. Reset because you respect your direction, not just because you're desperate for clarity. The most powerful people you admire, they don't wake up and guess who they are. They remind themselves. They declare it. and then they act from it. So don't wait for motivation. Build momentum through responsibility. The responsibility to lead your thoughts before the world tries to lead them for you. This is how you begin. This is how you build. And this is how you stay in charge. Now, it's time to defend that charge. Because even after a clean reset, distractions come. Life gets loud. Attention gets pulled. The next chapter is your shield. It's about protecting your focus when the world tries to break it. Distraction doesn't knock politely. It barges in. It doesn't wait until you're done with your work, your focus, your clarity. It interrupts. Constantly. And if your focus isn't protected, it gets taken. One click at a time. One emotion at a time. One small compromise, repeated, becomes a lifestyle of scattered effort. Most people don't realize they're distracted until they've already wasted hours. The scroll that was meant to last 5 minutes becomes a black hole. The quick response to a message becomes a rabbit hole of unnecessary conversations. The problem someone handed you becomes your new priority. And just like that, your day has been hijacked. Focus is not something you wait to find. It's something you protect, relentlessly. Especially when life gets noisy. Especially when emotions start pushing their way into your decisions. The truth is, the world is not designed to support your focus. It's designed to grab it. Every platform, every ping, every piece of urgent input is engineered to hijack your attention. If you don't protect it, you won't have any left for what matters. You must become the guardian of your mental space. Step 1. Know the pattern. Distractions show up most when you're tired, when you're overwhelmed, when you're uncertain. That's when your mind looks for the path of least resistance. And distraction is always easier than discipline. But just because something feels urgent doesn't mean it deserves your energy. Your focus is sacred. It is fuel. You don't pour fuel on meaningless fires. You save it for what builds. Every time you give your attention to something random, you're paying a cost. That cost is not just time. It's momentum, clarity, confidence. Those things don't vanish in big chunks. They bleed out slowly, through small, unnoticed distractions. You must create systems that defend your mind. Put your phone in another room when you're working. Use time blocks with intention. Turn off notifications. They're not neutral. They're mental landmines. Decide when you check messages, instead of letting them decide when you think. And when your thoughts start drifting, you pause. You ask, am I doing what I said I'd do? If not, return. No judgment. Just return. Quiet return is the practice that builds unshakable focus. Focus doesn't mean you stare at something for hours without blinking. It means you bring your mind back, again and again, to what you've chosen. That return is your strength. You are not meant to think about everything at once. You are not meant to carry the weight of the world's noise. You are meant to build. You are meant to create. And that requires mental discipline. One of the most powerful habits you can form is checking your mental location throughout the day. Just pause and ask, where am I right now, mentally? Are you in the task, or are you in someone else's business? Are you in the plan, or in the drama? If you've wandered, don't shame yourself. Just return, again and again. This is the quiet repetition that builds mental strength most people never even attempt. And when the distraction is not a thing, but a thought, the process is the same. You treat that thought like a visitor. You ask, do you belong here? Are you helping me move forward? If not, it goes. not entertained, not explored, removed. This is where most people fall. They confuse inner noise with relevance. Just because a fear appears doesn't mean it's a signal. Just because a memory surfaces doesn't mean it deserves airtime. Your brain produces thoughts by the thousands. Not all are useful. Most are echoes of patterns that no longer serve you. Decide what deserves to stay. Be ruthless with your mental real estate. Start every day with a single focus. One sentence, one intention. Write it. Speak it. Let that be the magnet that pulls your mind back when it drifts. The more you do this, the stronger the magnet becomes. That's how habits of attention are formed. Not by force, but by return. You don't need perfect conditions to focus. You need commitment. You need practice. You need the discipline to say, "Not now," to everything that doesn't support your direction. You owe no one your attention. Not every headline, not every opinion, not every invitation to engage in mental chaos. Your focus is not a public resource. It's a tool. Treat it like one. People will always try to pull you into their world, their pace, their pressure. But you're not here to react. You're here to build, to think clearly, to lead your life. And leading means choosing what to give your mind to. Deliberately, repeatedly, without apology. Focus is the new currency. In a world that trades in distraction, your ability to hold attention is your greatest advantage. Protect it. Now that your focus has a guard, it's time to go one layer deeper. To not only defend attention, but to direct it like a master. Your thoughts aren't passengers. They're the drivers. And the next step is to take the wheel completely and steer. Your thoughts are not passengers. They don't just sit quietly in the back of your mind, watching life unfold. They are the drivers. They take the wheel, point the direction, press the gas or the brake. But here's the catch. Most people have never learned how to drive their thoughts. They just sit in the passenger seat, hoping the ride ends somewhere good. But thought doesn't move on its own. You move it. You aim it. And when you don't, it defaults to emotion, habit, and fear. That's the autopilot setting of an untrained mind. It drifts, spirals, loops. One moment, you're motivated. The next, you're thinking about that conversation from 3 years ago. 1 second, you're in your goals. The next, you're staring into a scenario that hasn't even happened. And that's not a coincidence. That's poor steering. To gain control, you have to become aware of the steering moments. Those critical split seconds where you notice your thoughts beginning to veer. That's the opening. That's when you interrupt the pattern, take the wheel, and turn. This doesn't mean your thoughts will never drift. It means you no longer follow without question. So you begin to watch your mind, without judgment, but with precision. You feel the shift. Wait, I'm drifting. And then you act. You shift. You steer. Where do I want to go instead? That question is a compass. You are not at the mercy of what shows up in your head. You are the filter. You are the selector. You decide which direction you think. It begins by asking the right questions. Why am I thinking this? Does this help me move forward? Is this true, or is this fear speaking? Questions recalibrate direction. They give you time to grab the wheel before the crash. Too many people live in mental reaction mode. A thought pops up, and they follow. Without checking, without challenge. But you're not a bystander. You're the driver. And when you drive, you choose the route, the speed, the stops, the destination. And yes, sometimes the thought will whisper, "This is just how you are." That's a lie. How you are is not how you have to think. You are not your old patterns. You are not your recycled fears. You are whatever thought you choose to practice. Think of your mind like a road. If you drive it in the same direction every day, fear, avoidance, comparison, that becomes a rut. And the wheel starts turning there automatically. To change it, you must steer differently, deliberately, repeatedly, even when it feels unnatural. Especially when it feels unnatural. Because that discomfort is not a sign you're doing it wrong. It's proof that you're rewriting the route. Build checkpoints into your day. Pauses. Moments of conscious awareness. You ask, what am I thinking right now? Where is this thought taking me? Do I want to arrive there? And if the answer is no, you turn. No shame. Just turn. Repetition makes this easier. The more you redirect, the faster you notice. The faster you notice, the easier it is to act. And over time, what once felt foreign becomes your default. You're no longer reacting. You're navigating. And this steering doesn't mean avoiding hard emotions. It means choosing how you move through them. Anger rises. You breathe. You feel. But you steer into clarity, not chaos. Sadness visits. You honor it. But you aim toward healing, not paralysis. Let your values lead your steering, not your impulses, not your fatigue, not your doubt. Ask yourself often, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? What kind of thought would match that identity? And then choose it. Even if it feels hard. Especially then, because this is not about controlling every emotion. It's about not letting your emotions control your direction. To do this well, you must have a destination, a vision. If you don't know where you're going, every thought will feel valid. But when you know what kind of life you're building, when you know who you're becoming, you have a filter. You don't entertain what doesn't align. Personal standards are your GPS. They say, that thought doesn't match where we're going, and you let it go. It's easy to blame circumstances, to say you can't think clearly because life is heavy, but pressure doesn't remove your steering wheel. It just demands more skill to hold it. And skill is built in practice, especially under pressure. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. When you drift, you return. When you spiral, you interrupt. When you lose direction, you recenter. Every time you do this, you get stronger. Every time you grab the wheel, you prove that you're in charge. Not the past, not the doubt. You. Let others drive circles. You move forward. Let others react. You respond. Let others drift. You direct. Because when your thoughts follow your vision, your actions follow your power. And when you live that way, success is no longer a question of luck. It's a matter of time. Next, we'll deal with the enemy that disguises itself best. Weak thinking. It sounds reasonable. It whispers doubts. It delays progress. And it must be eliminated before it takes root. Weak thinking doesn't shout. It whispers. It slips in quietly and sounds like reason. Maybe this isn't the right time. What if you're not ready? Let's wait until things feel more certain. That's how it begins. A whisper, disguised as caution. But underneath it is fear, doubt, delay. And if you don't catch it early, it spreads. Weak thoughts are masters of disguise. They wear the mask of logic. They present themselves as protective. Don't risk too much. Don't try too hard. Be realistic. But what they're really saying is, stay small. Don't move. Stay where it's safe. And the longer they linger, the more convincing they become. You don't even notice when they've taken over. You just start feeling slower, heavier, less decisive, less alive. That's how you know weak thinking has taken root. When your energy drops without warning, when hesitation becomes your new habit, when your direction starts fading into fog. You don't argue with weak thoughts. You don't entertain them. You don't give them airtime hoping they'll disappear on their own. You cut them. Fast. Clean. With clarity. The moment you recognize one, you act. You don't ask, "Is this a good point?" You ask, "Is this building me?" If the answer is no, it leaves. You must become ruthless with your inner dialogue, not unkind, but disciplined. Because here's what weak thoughts feed on: delay. The longer you sit in them, the more they grow. The more they replay, the more they dig grooves in your brain. And before long, you're not just thinking weak. You're living weak. You can't afford that. Not when you're building something. Not when you're breaking patterns. Not when you're leading your mind. So what does rejecting weak thinking look like? It looks like interruption. You hear the thought, "You're not ready." You stop and say, "That's not helping." You replace it. "I'm building readiness through action." You hear, "You always mess this up." You cut it. "That's the past. I lead now." You hear, "You're falling behind." You challenge it. "I'm moving at the pace of alignment." It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing what gets to shape your day. You don't get stronger by waiting for weak thoughts to leave. You get stronger by showing them the door. But to do that consistently, you need clarity. Who are you becoming? What are your standards? What kind of thoughts match that identity? Anything that doesn't stay. You also need to know your triggers. Weak thoughts usually appear in patterns: before a big move, after a failure, when comparing yourself to others. Learn your pattern. Catch it early. Prepare for it. Don't be surprised by weakness. Be ready for it. Create mental armor. Truths you return to. Phrases that reinforce who you are. I return to clarity. I don't follow fear. I move even when it's hard. These are not slogans. They're safeguards, because weak thinking thrives in silence, in lack of decision, in mental fog. And the only way to counter it is through sharp, repeated direction. And when you slip, because you will, don't stay down. Don't make the mistake of believing that one weak thought defines you. It doesn't, unless you repeat it, unless you keep it. You can reset in seconds. One thought, one choice, one return to strength. Your job is not to eliminate every negative thought forever. Your job is to notice, interrupt, and replace. That discipline must become a habit. Not once a week. Daily, hourly, you build it like a muscle. Small reps, quick responses, fast recoveries. Eventually, your default changes. Weak thoughts still appear, but they bounce off. They don't stick. They don't steer, because you've decided, I don't feed what breaks me. And when others are spiraling, you're still. When others delay, you move. When others listen to doubt, you speak direction. That's mental maturity. That's leadership. That's clarity under pressure. Now take it further. Don't just reject weak thinking. Build powerful belief. Not temporary motivation. Real, internal conviction. The kind that holds steady when everything shakes. That's where we go next. Belief is not inherited. It's not handed to you by the world. It's chosen. And unless you choose it on purpose, it will be chosen for you, by your past, by your pain, by your fear, by people who never saw your potential. That's how most beliefs form, unconsciously, reactively, and without consent. But your belief system is the framework of your life. It determines how you see opportunity, how you handle failure, how far you'll go before you stop. It defines the size of the risks you'll take and the depth of the commitment you'll make. If your belief is weak, every challenge feels like a wall. If your belief is strong, every challenge becomes a step. So ask yourself, what do I believe about myself? And, more importantly, where did that belief come from? Was it something you truly chose? Or did it come from an experience you never questioned? From someone else's voice? From a single moment that you replayed so often it became a rule? This is where belief must be taken back. You cannot build a strong life on borrowed doubts. You must choose your beliefs with intention. You must construct them, test them, refine them, and protect them. Belief is not about pretending to be confident. It's about deciding what version of yourself you are loyal to. The small one that doubts or the one that builds. And once you choose, you defend that belief. Because belief is not fragile unless you treat it that way. Too many people think belief is a feeling. It's not. It's a decision, a contract, a non-negotiable statement of identity. You don't wait until everything feels right to believe in yourself. You believe, and then you move. And then you keep moving. And that movement feeds belief. That's how it works. Belief grows through repetition and evidence, not emotion. You take one step aligned with your decision, and that becomes proof. Then another. Then another. And over time, you no longer try to believe. You know what you've chosen, but belief is under attack every day. People will project their limits onto you. The world will echo your past. Your own mind will offer proof that you're not enough. That's the test. And your answer must be consistent. I choose this belief, and I protect it. Protect it by what you focus on. Feed it with progress. Don't stare at what isn't working. Look at what is. Don't obsess over mistakes. Study them, adjust, and move. Don't give energy to those who doubt. Walk past them. Head up. You don't need the world to believe in you. You need to believe when no one else does. That is the anchor. That is the fire that sustains through storms. You also don't need loud belief. You don't need to announce it or defend it in arguments. You need quiet conviction. The kind you carry in your walk. The kind you show in your consistency. The kind that says, I don't need approval, I have direction. And when that belief is tested, when things break, when people leave, when the plan stalls, you don't panic. You return. You remind yourself why you started, what you committed to, and who you've decided to become. That's the difference between belief and wishful thinking. Belief survives pressure. Wishful thinking dissolves the moment conditions shift. You want to be unshakable? Then choose a belief rooted in identity, not outcome. Believe not just that you'll succeed, but that you can adapt, adjust, and lead through whatever shows up. That's real confidence, the kind that can't be taken. Reinforce your belief with action. Small actions. Daily decisions. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your belief sharpens. Every time you push through resistance, your belief deepens. Every time you choose direction over distraction, your belief strengthens. And don't neglect visibility. Write your belief down, post it, speak it, see it daily. Let it be part of your environment, a mental lighthouse, always visible, even in fog. Filter your inputs. Don't let doubt live rent-free in your head. Don't consume voices that shrink your vision. Curate your circle. Curate your content. Curate your conversations. Every voice you allow in is either feeding your belief or feeding your fear. And in moments of doubt, because they will come, have a return path. A way to remind yourself, I've decided. I don't care how it feels right now. I know where I'm going. Belief is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to surrender to it. This mindset must become your internal law, something you live by, something you defend, even when it's inconvenient, even when you're tired, even when the evidence hasn't arrived yet, because the strongest beliefs are not built on results. They are built on integrity. You believe because you said you would. You believe because you've chosen what kind of person you are. And that doesn't waver. So if your old beliefs were built on doubt, build new ones on discipline. If they came from pain, replace them with truth. If they came from others, replace them with choice. Because you can't lead a strong life with beliefs that were handed to you. You must write your own. And once you've written them, live them. Speak them. Move with them. Let your actions become a broadcast of your internal certainty. Now it's time to take this belief and do something few are willing to do. Hold yourself to it when no one else is watching. That's where the real transformation happens. Not on stage, not online, but in silence, in solitude, in self-discipline. True discipline is not built in the spotlight. It's built in silence. It's not about showing up when people are watching. It's about showing up when they're not. When no one sees, when there's no applause, no accountability, no external consequence. That's when discipline reveals who you really are. Most people are motivated by eyes on them. Deadlines, expectations, social pressure. But that's not discipline. That's compliance. Discipline is what remains when all of that is gone, and what remains is rare. Because in the quiet, your excuses speak louder. In the quiet, your comfort tempts you more. In the quiet, your mind tests your commitment. Does this really matter? No one will know. Just take it easy today. That's the battlefield, and most people lose it quietly before the day even begins. You want to know how to rise above average? Learn to win that silent war. Discipline of the mind means you don't wait for the mood. You don't wait for the right vibe. You decide what needs to be done, and you do it. Not just in action, but in thought. You don't allow your mind to replay the story of why it's okay to break your own word. You don't let yourself drift into rationalizations that feel soft but cost everything. You build your own internal standard, clear, specific, personal. This is how I think when I'm tired. This is how I respond when I feel uncertain. This is the thought I return to when I want to quit. You build it like an inner code, not to impress, but to anchor. Because when things are hard, your emotions will try to take over. And when no one is watching, it's easy to let them. But if you let your feelings drive your choices, your direction becomes unstable. Discipline is what you've already decided before the moment of temptation arrives. It's the preset response you've trained, not the in-the-moment guess. And you train it daily. It looks like catching a lazy thought mid-sentence. It looks like rejecting the rationalization that says, you did enough. It looks like checking yourself when you start drifting from purpose into distraction. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's often repetitive. But that's the point. Discipline is the foundation that keeps your momentum from collapsing when your energy fades. It's what keeps your belief intact when the fire dies down. And it must be built in the dark, when nobody knows whether you followed through. That's where your identity is forged. People look for transformation in grand moments, big wins, turning points. But the real transformation is in the days when you choose not to break your standard, even when you could, even when no one would know. You train your body at the gym. You must train your thoughts with the same intensity. Set rules for yourself. When I'm overwhelmed, I breathe and refocus. When I feel like quitting, I return to my reason. When I start scrolling, I redirect my hands and my attention, then follow them, without exception. Not because you have to, but because you said you would. And when you fall short, because you will, you don't collapse. You reset. You return. You don't negotiate with guilt. You act. You catch the drift early and course correct immediately. That's the difference between emotional reaction and disciplined response. Your future self doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency. Quiet consistency. The kind that says, I don't depend on motivation. I've made a decision. There's a certain pride that builds in silence. The kind that doesn't need to be posted. The kind that doesn't need approval. Just the deep, grounded knowing that you're living your word. That kind of discipline compounds. It changes how you walk, how you think, how you carry yourself. And no one can fake it. Because it shows up in your habits, your pace, your ability to stay calm when pressure hits. You must also protect your environment. Discipline thrives in clarity. Remove what weakens you. Eliminate distractions at the root. Stop negotiating with the things that constantly pull you away. If it pulls you out of alignment, remove it. No argument, no explanation, just gone. Discipline isn't just about saying yes to hard things. It's about saying no to wrong things. The subtle ones. The convenient ones. The ones that delay your direction just enough to slow your life down without you noticing. And don't let guilt steal your rest. Rest is part of discipline, but it must be earned. You don't collapse into rest. You arrive with clarity. That's the difference between escapism and recovery. You stop when the work is done, not when you feel like stopping. When you train discipline like this, when you master your mindset in private, you carry an inner strength that pressure can't break. Because you've already proven to yourself that you can lead when no one is leading you. And once you lead yourself, no external force can claim your direction. From this place, you begin to embody a new level of identity. Not just thinking strong, becoming strong. That's where we go next. Building the mindset of the person you want to be, long before the results show up. Everything you build begins in the mind. The future you're chasing, the goals you're setting, the character you're refining, it all starts with how you think. Not once, not in bursts, but daily. Consistently, intentionally. You cannot become a new version of yourself while thinking like the old one. That's the hidden trap most people never see. They set goals with their words, but steer their life with outdated thoughts. They want more, but they think from fear. They want progress, but they think from patterns built during survival. And they wonder why nothing sticks. You don't get to wait for results to give yourself permission to think differently. You must think like the person you want to become before the world reflects it back to you. That means this: your mindset must rise before your life does. You wake up and you think from the next level. Not as a fantasy, but as a choice. You ask, how does the future me think? And you choose to think from that place now. Because if you don't train your thoughts to match the life you want, your habits will keep rebuilding the life you're trying to outgrow. Thinking like the person you want to become isn't about faking it. It's about leading your identity. And identity is not set in stone. It's shaped by repetition. You start by defining the future version of yourself with precision. Who is that person? How do they think under pressure? How do they handle uncertainty? What do they focus on during chaos? What do they ignore? What kind of beliefs do they carry into every room? Once that version is clear, you have a model, a reference point. Now your job is to think from that model daily, not when it's convenient, not when things feel easy, but especially when the doubt creeps in, especially when your environment hasn't changed yet, especially when no one else sees it. You don't wait to feel ready. You think ready. You don't wait to feel strong. You think strength. You don't wait to become. You think from becoming. This is mental leadership. And yes, it will feel unnatural at first. The old patterns will try to speak louder. They'll say, "This isn't you." They'll try to anchor you back into the old stories. That's normal. But that's also your signal. Because discomfort is not a sign of misalignment. It's a sign of expansion. You're stretching into new mental space. Don't retreat. Catch the old thoughts mid-sentence. Stop them. Say, "That's not how I think anymore." Then replace them. Not with fake positivity, but with chosen clarity. I think from vision. I act from direction. I speak from alignment. And then you move accordingly. Because the way you think shapes the way you show up. And the way you show up shapes your outcomes. Most people want new results without new identity. But the life you want will demand new thoughts before it gives you new evidence. That's why this mental shift must become a standard, a practiced posture. You hold yourself to the future, not the past. You respond to stress like the future version of you. You make decisions like them. You prioritize like them. You think like them until that version becomes your new baseline. And when you slip, because everyone does, you don't spiral. You reset. You say, "That wasn't the thought of who I'm becoming." And you come back. That return is the rep. That return is the strength. Your identity is not built in breakthroughs. It's built in quiet returns, small shifts, daily choices. You're not trying to get somewhere. You're choosing to live from somewhere, a future you've already defined. This future identity must also be protected, because not everyone will understand. Some people are attached to your old version. Your old habits made them comfortable. Your old doubts gave them someone to relate to. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to evolve. You do not explain your thinking to those who aren't building what you're building. You don't wait for approval to shift your mind. You stay locked in. This level of thinking will test you. On hard days, your old thoughts will come knocking, and they'll sound familiar. That's their trick. But you don't open the door. You remind yourself, "I'm not thinking like my past. I'm thinking like my direction." This is not about being someone else. It's about becoming more fully who you were designed to be. Without the noise, the limitation, the old programming. And it starts every morning. Before the results, before the recognition, before the shift becomes visible, you train the thought. You build the posture. You walk as the future. You lead from what's coming, not what has been. That is alignment. That is power. And from that place, you don't just react to life, you create it. Now we take that identity and put it into motion. You've chosen the thoughts. You've built the mindset. Next, we rewire the automatic patterns, those invisible scripts that try to pull you back when pressure hits. Because to become who you're meant to be, you must dismantle what no longer serves. You can't rewrite your future until you rewrite your patterns. Because no matter how powerful your goals are, if your mental reflexes are still tied to fear, delay, or confusion, you'll keep repeating the same cycles. You'll wake up with fire, but sabotage it by midday. You'll feel inspired, but fall back into comfort before it counts. Your default reactions matter more than your intentions. You can speak all the affirmations in the world, visualize your dream life, Write down your goals in golden ink. But if your subconscious programming is wired for hesitation, avoidance, or mental chaos, the results will stay the same. That's why rewiring matters. This isn't about motivation. This is about mechanics, mental mechanics. The unseen coding that runs your decision-making, your emotional responses, your self-talk. Even when you're not paying attention, it begins with awareness. You must catch the automatic moments. When pressure shows up, what's your reflex? When something doesn't go to plan, what's your inner dialogue? When you feel behind, what story do you start repeating? Don't judge it. Observe it. Track it like a scientist. Because once you see the loop, you can break it. And it is a loop. A pattern of neural shortcuts your brain has built over time. It's efficient, but often destructive. It doesn't care about your future. It only cares about familiarity. That's why old reactions feel so natural. They're not aligned. They're rehearsed. So we interrupt the loop. It starts with the simplest shift. Pause. Before you react, you pause. Before you spiral, you pause. Before you assume, you pause. In that space, you ask, is this thought aligned with who I'm becoming? If the answer is no, you change the channel. You steer the response. This rewiring requires repetition. Every time you stop the old pattern and insert a new one, even if it feels small, you create a fork in the road. And over time, your brain starts choosing the new path by default. But this only happens if you stay consistent. The mind learns through frequency, not intensity. That means you can't just override your reactions once and expect change. You must return to it, again and again, until it's embedded, until it's not something you try to do. It's just how you are. Here's how you build this. 1. Name your old pattern. Don't leave it vague. Define it. I shut down when I feel overwhelmed. I blame others when I feel insecure. I procrastinate when I don't feel perfect. Naming weakens its power. It brings shadow into light. 2. Replace with a conscious script. Something short, repeatable, grounding. I stay centered under pressure. I solve, I don't spiral. One small action, no drama. This becomes your override. You don't just remove the old code, you install new instructions. 3. Pair it with physical action. Don't just think the new thought, do something with it, even something small. Action locks the new pattern into place. You shift both mentally and physically, and your brain takes note. 4. Track your returns. Every time you override, mark it. A journal, a tally, anything. Celebrate the return. It's not just discipline, it's reprogramming. Over time, your automatic reactions change. You don't freeze, you focus. You don't complain, you course correct. You don't delay, you do. That is the power of internal rewiring. It's not always glamorous, it's often invisible, but the results are unmistakable. Because when your automatic becomes aligned, you become unstoppable. This also means you must guard your environment, again, because your inputs shape your mental loops. If you constantly surround yourself with drama, comparison, or people who validate your weakness, you'll struggle to break free. Your mind becomes what it's fed, and if you're rewiring, you must protect the process. So choose carefully what you listen to, who you talk to, what you consume. Your patterns are learning from all of it. And when you stumble because rewiring is messy, don't start over. Just return. That's the golden move. Not a perfect streak, a perfect return rate. You'll feel the change. Your mood won't collapse like it used to. Your reactions will feel cleaner. Your clarity will arrive faster. your decisions will align deeper. Not because life got easier, but because your inner responses got stronger. Eventually, people will notice. They'll ask how you stay calm, how you stay focused, how you move forward so consistently. And the answer won't be magic. It will be this: I stopped reacting from my past. I started thinking from my future. And I rewired my reflexes to match who I've decided to become. This is the foundation of true identity transformation. And with it comes the ability to remain centered, even under pressure. That's where we go next. Because it's one thing to lead your mind when life is quiet. It's another to stay anchored when everything gets loud. Clarity is easy when the world is calm. Focus feels natural when no one's interrupting. Discipline flows when your energy is high and nothing unexpected appears on your schedule. But life doesn't work like that. Life gets loud, unexpected, messy, emotional. And the real test of mental mastery isn't how you think in silence. It's how you stay anchored in the storm. Pressure isn't the enemy. Untrained reaction is. Most people lose themselves not because the situation is too difficult, but because they never learned how to think clearly inside chaos. Their thoughts spike, spiral, scatter. Their emotions drive decisions. Their focus shatters, and their identity dissolves in the noise. But that doesn't have to be your story. You can train yourself to stay centered when everything around you pulls at your attention, your energy, and your control. It doesn't happen by accident. It's built through intention, through mental practice, through choosing the center again and again, no matter how tempting it is to follow the noise. Staying centered under pressure starts with one unshakable truth. Your inner world is your responsibility, not your environments, not your bosses, not the algorithms, yours. You are not obligated to absorb the chaos. You are not required to match the temperature of the room. You are not here to be tossed around by every problem that walks through your door. You are here to respond with clarity, to lead with internal order, even when everything external feels unstable. That begins with pattern recognition. When life gets loud, what do you usually do? Do you overthink? Do you reach for distraction? Do you complain, spiral, collapse into indecision? Notice the triggers. Pressure doesn't create your pattern. It exposes it. And once it's exposed, you can change it. Pressure moments are your laboratory, your gym. They're not interruptions to growth. They are the stage where growth becomes visible. So when tension hits, you pause. You ask, what is mine to carry? What needs to be done? Not felt, not feared, not dramatized, just done. What thought keeps me in leadership right now? You return to that thought. You hold it like an anchor in high wind. Sometimes it sounds like, I stay composed. Other times, I think clearly even now. Or simply, I don't follow the noise. This is how you move through storms without becoming one. The people who build powerful lives are not the ones with quiet schedules. They're the ones with steady minds. And steady doesn't mean emotionless. It means regulated, guided, grounded. You don't eliminate emotion. You elevate above its control. You see it, feel it, acknowledge it. But you choose your response. You lead your reaction. This is the essence of mental strength. The ability to slow the moment down when everything feels rushed. To create internal space before making external moves. It's a trained pause, the same pause that stops you from saying something you'll regret. The same pause that keeps you from making fear-based decisions. The same pause that creates a future you don't have to clean up later. That pause must become a habit, a conditioned reflex. And like any muscle, it's built through repetition. Start small. When a conversation triggers you, pause. When a task overwhelms you, pause. When someone disappoints you, pause. In that breath, reclaim your direction. Reset your internal compass. Return to clarity. And protect your clarity like it's your lifeline. Because it is. It's clarity that lets you discern what deserves energy and what doesn't. It's clarity that allows you to decide rather than react. It's clarity that keeps you from solving the wrong problem or chasing someone else's crisis. And clarity, under pressure, is your power. But clarity doesn't just arrive. It's created, and it's protected by boundaries. Set boundaries on what conversations you entertain, on when you check your phone, on how you let other people's urgency infiltrate your thinking. If someone else is panicked, that's theirs. You can hold space without absorbing their storm. You can listen without losing yourself. You can support without surrendering your stability. Because when you lose your center, you can't lead. Not yourself, not anyone. And leading under pressure is what the next level of your life will require. Not more talent, not more inspiration, more inner stability. Start building that now. Visualize your next pressure moment before it happens. Imagine the noise, the triggers, the tension. Then rehearse your response. See yourself pausing, grounding, leading, again and again, until it becomes your default. You're not becoming robotic. You're becoming reliable to yourself. When others are shaking, you hold. When others are blaming, you think. When others are escaping, you stay present. That's real power. Not control over others, control over yourself. You don't need the world to calm down for you to find clarity. You carry clarity into the world, no matter its condition. And that clarity, when practiced long enough, becomes a frequency that others feel. People won't know why they trust you, why they calm down around you, why they listen when you speak. It's because your mind isn't bouncing around like theirs. It's anchored. That's your competitive edge. That's your invisible leverage. That's what makes you unshakable. And once you've learned to lead your mind in chaos, you're ready for the final shift. To lead your mind everywhere. Not just in the storm, but in the calm. Not just reactively, but proactively. To become the consistent commander of your thoughts, your direction, and your identity. That's the ultimate move. Full mental leadership. Mental leadership is not a moment. It's a way of life. It's not something you access in crisis and forget when things are calm. It's a daily posture, a decision you carry into every room, every task, every conversation. It's the quiet authority over your own mind that builds consistency, not just performance. To lead your mind is to live without being dragged by noise, to choose without needing external agreement, to think with clarity even when your circumstances are unclear. This is the final shift. Not managing thoughts, not reacting better, but leading. You decide where your attention goes. You decide what thoughts are welcome. You decide what mental patterns stay and what gets rewritten. That is mental leadership. Total ownership of your inner world. And it begins every morning. Before the world enters. Before the distractions begin. Before the doubts wake up. You lead by deciding, this is what I believe today. This is what I focus on. This is how I think, regardless of how I feel. And you don't wait to feel good. You don't wait for the right mood to lead. You lead your mind into the mood that matches your purpose. This is how you become untouchable. Not because life stops testing you, but because your thoughts stop betraying you. Most people live in reaction. They wake up and immediately hand their mind over to the news, the apps, the notifications, the opinions, and then they wonder why they feel behind, scattered, frustrated. It's not the world, it's their lack of leadership. When you don't lead your thoughts lead you. usually to places you've already outgrown. So you begin the practice of command. You wake, and before you do anything else, you check your direction. You reset your mind with clarity. You speak identity over your day. You ask, what matters most right now? And you build from that. Throughout the day, you notice the drift, and you return. You notice the spiral, and you reset. You notice the weak thought, and you override. That return is the habit. That return is the power, because your mind will wander. That's normal. But leadership doesn't mean your thoughts never leave. It means they never stay gone for long. You guide them back, calmly, firmly, repeatedly. That's the training. And you reinforce it with action. Because nothing strengthens mental conviction like follow-through. When you think like a leader, you move like one. You don't just entertain good ideas, you execute. You don't just plan, you act. You don't just speak, you align. That alignment builds identity. Not the kind you perform, the kind you embody. People feel it when they're around you. They sense it in your posture, your pace, your presence. You don't have to talk about how focused you are. It shows. You don't need to explain your standards. You live them. Mental leadership doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't chase applause. It knows. I am responsible for what enters and exits my mind. I don't outsource that to anyone. You create personal policies. I don't argue with weak thoughts. I don't react to pressure, I respond. I don't repeat the past. I rewrite from today. These aren't just phrases, they're instructions, guidelines, anchors, and they stay intact, even when things get heavy, especially when things get heavy, because true leadership doesn't collapse under weight. It becomes more precise, more measured, more steady. You bring that steadiness into your relationships, your work, your self-talk, your recovery. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to dominate. You lead through presence, through direction, through consistency. This is the discipline most people never develop. They stop at performance, at bursts of focus, at motivational peaks. But leadership isn't about how high you can spike. It's about how steady you can hold. Over time, that steadiness builds momentum, and momentum compounds. And one day, you wake up and realize the gap between your old self and your new self is unrecognizable. Not because you changed everything at once, but because you led your mind one decision at a time. One override, one redirect, one return, one belief protected, one weakness rejected, one future thought practiced until it became your baseline. This is how mental leadership is built, quietly, repeatedly, intentionally. You no longer need the world to be quiet for you to focus. You've trained your mind to carry peace. You no longer need perfect motivation. You've trained your thoughts to obey clarity. You no longer need external permission. You've already chosen what to believe, what to build, and who you are becoming. And now, as we come to the close of this transformation, understand this. Leadership of the mind isn't a finish line, it's a lifestyle. Every day, the world will offer you noise. Every day, emotion will rise. Every day, distraction will visit. But so will your power. So will your decision. So will your discipline. And you will return to it again and again. Because you know, how you think is how you live. You've taken the mind back. Now lead it. You've walked through the battlefield of thought. You've seen how your mind can be either your most powerful ally or your most destructive enemy. And now, you stand at the edge of a new way of living. One where you no longer react from habit, but respond from intention. This isn't about being perfect. It never was. It's about leading yourself, daily, repeatedly, especially when no one is watching. When life tests you, when fear whispers, when the old stories beg to come back. You now know better. And because you know better, you think better. And because you think better, you build better. This is the foundation. These tools, these practices, these truths, they are not temporary. They are your structure, your return point, your mental home base. Each time you pause instead of reacting, each time you choose clarity over chaos, each time you repeat a future-aligned thought, you deepen the groove. You build the new you. That's how transformation works. Not overnight, not in one grand leap, but through steady, relentless mental leadership. So keep choosing, keep returning, keep leading your mind with strength, discipline, and focus. Because the greatest thing you'll ever master is yourself. And once you lead your thoughts, you lead your life.